Podcasts! Podcasts! I can't find my podcasts!
Well, what phone do you have?
It's an Android device!
Well, every Android user I know uses the Podcast Republic app. All you do is make your favorite shows your favorites, and they get downloaded straight to your phone faster than 88 miles per hour, and it's free.
It sounds much easier than chasing psychotic killers. I'll download the Podcast Republic app on my Android phone straight away. The Podcast Republic app on the Google Play Store. Welcome to Dissecting the 80s. I am Trip Lano, one half of the Mega Podcasting Powers, and joining me for the first episode of the 2018 Spooktacular Laurie Strode edition is a man who can't...
I thought you were calling me Laurie Strode, and I was like, God bless.
No.
I wish.
You wish. You do wish. A man who can't be killed by bullets, nor fire, nor unending weird cult, the Macho Man Drew.
Andrew Lano. But I bet a stubbed toe in a dark room would just take me down.
You're just done so.
I'm just down for the count.
We are celebrating the return of Warrior Queen Laurie Strode this month. The new Halloween movie comes out. We're both really excited about it.
It looks dope as hell.
And we are celebrating her by doing 2 Halloween movies this month, only one of which features her. This is Halloween 2, so you know what that means.
We gotta go back. We gotta go dissect the 80s. It's your horrible wig. Something's gotta be done about your horrible wig.
When the Mega Powers explode.
I'm talking about the 80s. Oh, yeah.
Great Scott.
Cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
Mega Powers, yeah.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Now, whose horrible wig are you talking about?
Jamie Lee Curtis. That wig was terrible.
I'll be honest, I did not notice it was a wig.
Oh, yeah, no, because she had started wearing her short hair.
Really? This early? I think of, that's, not until modern era.
No, because if you think about it, in Trading Places, she was short hair, and that was the 80s.
But didn't she have long hair in, Prom Night?
I actually don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen Prom Night.
Okay. I feel like she had... whatever. If you say it's a wig, I trust you. You would know much more than I do.
Yeah, I was like, we couldn't, zhuzh it up. It just hangs around her face like not real hair.
Yeah, I definitely noticed her hair being different, but it didn't cross into wig territory for me, but I guess I'm just an oblivious doofus. This starts right after the first movie.
Previously on Halloween.
Yeah. You recap the last, 2 minutes of the old movie, and I would normally say, don't remind me of the better movie, but I have to say, I had remembered this as being, okay-ish, and I found myself really enjoying it on this watch.
It's been solid B-.
Yeah, it's been about 10 years probably since I've seen this movie, so it was very, very fresh to me. There were a few things I remembered, mostly the big ending, but for the most part, this kind of played like a new movie, and I was genuinely surprised by how good this movie was.
It's got a lot of great kills. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it.
And most of the cast is the same cast from the first movie, who, other than maybe Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasance, are not the kind of people you'd want carrying a huge motion picture, but are perfectly good in these, small town sheriff's deputy type roles. Really, really good. And honestly, the woman who plays the nurse, who's kind of only briefly in the first movie, is in this for a lot more and is good. Very
I love
good.
her so much.
Yeah. So we'll get to all that, but this is going to be a very, I think, positive, upbeat review for a change on this particular show.
Yeah, I only have a few complaints, but for the most part, I enjoyed this one. I like seeing Donald Pleasance with that chain-smoking nurse from the first one. I was like, God, I wish she was his apprentice for the rest of these movies.
It really would have made them so much better. Or if they didn't do the insane thing they do in part 4, see our previous episode, where they bring both Loomis and Michael back from the absolute deadest of the dead. She could have been the Loomis character.
She could have been. That's the thing. Mustafa Akkad has made some choices. He done a lot cool for this series, but he's also done a lot that's not cool for this series.
Yeah, and that is a weird choice. But we'll get there at the end of this episode, obviously. So Loomis shoots him, goes outside. There's like an imprint in the dirt and some blood on the ground, but no
It's a
Michael.
real like Tex Avery cartoon. Like
It is-
Bugs Bunny fell on the ground.
It is very silly for the tone. The rest of the tone in this movie, it's very Buck Wild that it's like this smoosh in the grass. Mm-hmm. So we get the pumpkin credits just like the first movie, although definitely a different jack-o'-lantern.
It is, well, because it splits open.
Yes, but also it doesn't have the like line near the nose, which is a detail I always notice
Yeah.
in the first
And the
movie.
shapes are slightly different.
Yes, but
And
love the
Mustafa
font.
gets the top billing this time.
Yeah, well, it is his money after all.
I know, but it just seems so like to me, like the person who actually did all the creative work and creative endeavors makes sense that they would fight for like it's my movie. We're gonna call
Right.
it John Carpenter's Halloween. It just seems so weird that like the guy who fronted the money and was like, I think came up with the babysitter concept, and that was kind of it.
Yes.
was all of a sudden top bill. Like that's a big jump to me.
No, I agree with you. I think it's not Mustafa Akkad Presents, right? It's like
No, it might be Mustafa
Okay.
Akkad present because it's not Mustafa Akkad's Halloween 2. It's Mustafa Akkad Presents.
So I wonder if that's like a production company credit. Like he just named his production company after himself.
It's just his name.
Yeah. Like if it was us, it'd be like Chum Some of This presents Halloween 2, and instead he just called his thing that.
That's fair, I guess.
But we get Loomis being like talking to the sheriff. He's like, "I shot him 6 times. He's not human." And the
Except
sheriff
he shot him 7 times.
Does he really? Because
Yes.
he only has a 6-shooter, so that's
In
definitely
the
a mistake.
original movie, it was 6 times. In the like new reshot ending that they put in the beginning, it was 7 times.
So do you think this was reshot? I thought it was the actual footage from the previous movie.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure a lot of it's reshot. Like I think once Loomis gets into the picture, like up the stairs, I think it's new. But I think the original stuff with the kids and Laurie, like
Okay.
until once Laurie takes his mask off, I think it switches to new stuff.
Interesting, because all that stuff is like beat for beat and shot for shot the same as the first movie until he falls off the railing.
I think the balcony looks different,
Oh, interesting. I mean, you might be right.
and we get the synth version of the classic soundtrack. Because that,
Well, it's
that was
always
the
kind of synthy.
No, like because that was my first clue that it was different was that because you see Donald Pleasant sees the kids run out of the house and you're hearing the music that like normally has a bit of a I don't know, a softer sound, but
Okay.
it was very 80s synth heavy, I thought.
Interesting, because I always think of this score as very synth heavy, and I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but I like it, so I'll tell it anyway. It's very short. I make my ringtone the Halloween theme song every year around this time. I will
call.
probably change it after we finish recording this episode. And at least once a year, my phone rings and it scares the shit out of me. So like last year, I was down in my basement folding laundry, and then suddenly it's boo-boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, and I'm like whipping around like, what is happening to me? Oh, it's my actual phone because I'm an idiot.
I love that.
That's my big Halloween tradition.
It's so effective.
So it's late night sandwich making, which I really dig. That this woman is like making a sandwich for her husband, and it's like a very elaborate sandwich for clearly like. Although, okay, this is a
It's
question.
like
I
a
have.
sandwich you and I would make.
Yes. What time of night is it supposed to be? Because there's all these kids still out trick or treating, but it looks like 11 p.m. dark out there.
So, I'm trying to think of the logic and the logistics of the first movie, where like by the time Michael was killing everyone, most of the kids were home from trick or treating.
That's what I
So
thought.
maybe it's like 10 o'clock.
Because there's still like so many kids out trick or treating. I feel like when we grew up, like 9 o'clock was pushing it for trick or treating.
Yeah, I actually. Oh, you know what they say? They say that Ben Tramer left the party at 10 o'clock.
Yes, and
Which
but
means
at that
that's
point,
after 10 o'clock.
well, Ben Tramer is later we find out the kid who gets killed by the car.
And
So-
was supposed to be Laurie's date.
Yes, yeah, no, he's from the first movie. He was.
She was
definitely
like, I
supposed
have
to
a
be her
crush
date.
on Ben Tramer. And
Yes.
her friend was like, well, I got you a date with him.
Yeah,
Boom,
and
he got killed by a car.
So I guess in the fiction of the movie, him leaving that party might have been him going to try to hook up with Lori.
Oh, you think? It was? Oh, I didn't realize the date was going to be like that night.
I thought he was
Maybe
supposed
it
to be
is.
like her date, as in the fiction of the first movie, like it's all couples plus Lori. And so they're like, we're going to shove the kids off on you, but Ben will come over late night and you can watch movies and make out.
Oh, I hope that's what that was. I like that.
Ben Travers like leaving a party. He's like, I'm gonna go make out with a cute girl. I'm gonna moke. Oh, they're not a car. Smash explosion. That's a real terrible way for it to be the end for him.
But also, like, in his, I guess in his offense, how would you say that? Like, I'm blaming him for some of this.
Okay. Well, how are you? You're blaming him.
If I'm like bumbling down the street with a mask on, and I see a crazy man in a trench coat whip out a gun, I'm taking my mask off and being like, "Whoa, what's happening?" I don't just like quietly turn around and waddle away.
I think one, he's very drunk, and two, he's terrified. So I'm gonna cut him some slack.
You know there was throw up in that mask.
I sure hope not.
Like a little bit, if he was that drunk.
Oh, you mean like he got hit by the car, puked his mask, and died with his own vomit on his face?
No,
that's
I
like
just
a
meant,
really
at
sad
some point-
fiction you're
I meant at
creating.
some point during the party, he threw up a little bit in the mask. If he's that drunk.
Maybe. Anyway, we'll circle back to Ben Traynor in a minute, but this woman's making this sandwich, and it's like a pretty elaborate sandwich for 10 or 11 o'clock at night. It's like, you want mayonnaise? You want mustard? She's slicing this ham fresh off the hock.
She busts out her what is it, the deli slicer?
Yeah, she basically does.
She does the one slice and gives it to him to make sure it's the right thickness.
Yes, exactly. Is this the right slice for your ham, Hubert? How thick do you want it? And so she's carving up, making this nice sandwich, and the TV cuts in from Night of the Living Dead, which is very cool.
Public domain.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say probably the most used movie in other movies because of that. And it was the cemetery we visited.
Yeah.
So
ignorant.
The man is like dead to the world, and Michael, there's a lot of Michael POV in the beginning, which is really, really good looking. And he sneaks in the back of the house, steals the knife, and leaves like a bloody, not like a handprint, but some bloody residue on the cutting board where the knife was. And the woman is like blindly reaching for her knife, which is not super smart, BT dubs.
I was thinking she was reaching for it for protection.
Yeah, I guess that could be. It's definitely very scary, the news break that comes in and is like, it's a crazed killer on the loose, and he's murdering
the
teenagers.
News bulletin from every urban legend that you told to your
Yes.
friends on the schoolyard. Crazy man broke out of the asylum.
Yes, exactly. So she's the first kill. Michael stabs her, but we don't see.
Michael leaves their house. He doesn't kill anybody.
I thought he killed that woman.
No, because my note was, this poor woman doesn't get any resolution to her missing knife and the blood spot in her kitchen.
Oh, see, I thought the implication was like her turning around and screaming after seeing the blood was Michael was like back in the kitchen and kills her.
I don't think so, just because it didn't seem like he went to hide. It seemed like because it was like there was one survivor, and then he heard that and left.
Interesting. Okay, because I thought he definitely killed this lady.
Oh, I don't believe he did.
Well, the first person he definitely kills is a teenage girl who's home alone slightly after that.
Somehow, this is probably the grayest of the gray logic to a kill in a Halloween movie.
How so?
Because the way... First of all, she and her friend are talking about the murders, and she's like, didn't you hear? There was a murder over in Haddonfield. And I was like, aren't you in Haddonfield? And then she was like, that's only a block away from me. And I was like, so you're definitely in Haddonfield, and you can phrase this better.
Maybe it's just like she lives literally on the opposite side. Like she can spit into Haddonfield, but it's like...
Got it.
Like how I live on the edge between a city and county, and so like I could spit into the city limits, but I'm not in the city limits. And so
Right.
people might be like, oh, it's in the city. Well, where? Oh, wait, that's like where I live. Wait a minute.
Yeah. But we see Michael come in the house behind her and just, like, disappear, like, turns and walks somewhere else. And the way the camera follows her, it looks like he just appeared, he just, like, jumps up out of nowhere, and she should have been able to see him in her periphery.
Yes. But I will say, logic issues aside, this shot is the first of many really great shots in this movie where she's in the foreground on the phone and we see the door open very quietly.
There's
and him, like,
so many good ones.
yeah, this whole movie is shot in such a way to let the hallway or the room or the rest of the building behind you be places for Michael to be hiding in, and it's just all really good looking. Whoever it was that lit this movie, I should have looked it up to give this person credit, but the certainly the director of photography and the person who lit all these scenes deserves a ton of credit because you're following up genuinely one of the best horror movies ever made. That's big shoes to fill. And even if it is the same person doing the job again, you can't just repeat yourself, and it doesn't. Like it's got its own little bit of swagger to it, I guess. It's a little bit different than the first movie.
It does repeat itself in the way of, like, it feels like the same movie. Like, it feels like a continuation of the same movie.
Oh, definitely. But I'm just saying there's, like, it's not like, it's like a really good cover song, right? Where it pays homage to what happened, the other version of it, but it doesn't feel like just, oh, I'm doing the exact same thing, beat for beat, note for note, and I'm also trying to sing it the same way.
I'm doing the slow version for a movie trailer.
Yeah, exactly. It's a better cover than that. So they kill this girl who doesn't run out of the house. Like, by the way, if you are in your house on the phone and there's a psycho murderer on the loose and you know that fact and your front door is open, run out the back door. Just
the
go.
back door's behind you. Because you just came in that back door.
Right.
Trying to check on your neighbors.
Yeah, get out. Go away. Get quickly away from this situation, you doofus. Mm-hmm. But we see Laurie, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode getting carried out in a stretcher, and she's like, don't let them put me out. Don't let them put me out. Smash cut to the hospital, and this kid is coming in with a razor blade in his mouth, like the Halloween urban legend.
Stupid urban legend that never really happened.
Well, it did happen, but it exclusively happened to people doing it to their children or their nephews or nieces or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It wasn't like some random, like some crazy man was handing out razor blade candies.
Right.
Also, the safest place to keep a razor blade on Halloween is an apple, because who the hell is gonna eat that? Like, if I had got an apple on Halloween, I'd be like, thanks, no thanks, trash.
I wouldn't
Reese's
even
cups,
carried it
Reese's
home.
Cups.
It's too much weight in the bag of candy. I'd have left it in that person's bushes.
Yeah, or you just, like, hawk it at a tree.
That feels more aggressive to do that, but okay. Like, there's no way I'm carrying an apple around all night.
Oh, absolutely not.
I always really loved the, like, oh, they're putting drugs in the candy. And I finally, like, our mom had talked about this with me once, and I finally was like, Mom, drugs are expensive.
This is an expensive hobby.
Nobody is giving away their expensive drugs for shits and giggles to, like, mess with children. Like, they're eating them. If they bought weed lollipops and they gave them to children, it's because they got too high and accidentally gave out the weed lollipops. It wasn't
Exactly.
like, it was like, oh, I'm going to dose this 8-year-old. It was like, hey, man, have some candy. And then later they're like, I want another weed lollipop. And they're like, oh, no, these are dum-dums. That means I gave
a
them...
lemon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one's giving away drugs. Drugs
No.
are expensive.
Absolutely not.
I also, like, it never comes to anything because he's barely in this movie, but the doctor is drunk.
Straight up, they admit it. Like,
Yeah.
he came from the country club. I almost, like, half expected him to have, like, a goofy pair of glasses or like a fake nose on.
The, like, Groucho Marx disguise, basically.
Yeah,
Yes,
something.
yes. Or, like, a goofy tie.
Yeah, like a little, or like a silly, something that says, like, I was drunk at a country club costume party, and now
Yes.
I'm at work doing my best.
I also wonder if Mustafa Akkad was like, drunk doctor, you say? Because that's what the character is in Halloween 3.
Oh, you're right.
He's like a hardcore, I don't know if he's necessarily, like, he's a hardcore drunk in the movie. I guess that makes him an alcoholic, but he's like a real hardcore drinker, and he's also a doctor. So I found that to be a weird, interesting connection between them.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Also, everyone in this hospital seems to know who Laurie Strode is, which is weird.
Why does everybody know everybody in this movie?
Right. I mean, I get it's a small town, but still.
I couldn't handle a small town like that. Like, pop it up in the hospital and everybody there. Like, everywhere shouldn't be Cheers.
Well, it's like first in the ambulance, they're like, "Oh, you mean the daughter of the guy who owns Strode Realty?" And it's like, okay, maybe you know that name from driving around town. Fine, I'll give it to you.
Sure.
I'll give that one to you.
Bus station ad.
EMTs, yeah, an EMTs drive for a job. They're always in the car. Fine, but then the doctor and both nurses are like, Laurie, when she comes into the hospital. And it's like, okay, first of all, she is in dire need of medical attention. Second of all, can you just focus on that?
Like, if the first movie had established her as a candy striper or something, I'd be like, okay, sure. But
Right.
there's no indication of that. It's just like, Laurie!
Yeah, it's very silly. We go back to the street with Loomis, and he is driving around with the sheriff looking for Michael. And this is the part we talked about earlier.
Oh,
where
hang on,
we
real
later
quick.
find out it's Ben Traynor, but it's just a guy in a mask. Although I do have the question of like,
Tramer.
what is that mask supposed to be?
Yeah, I don't... Because I was like, I guess in the world of the movie, it is a mask that existed as is.
Oh, that's true, because Michael does just yank it off the shelf earlier in the movie. Or in the
think
first
so.
movie. He just
In the first
gets
one,
it.
he took it.
Yeah, okay, all right. So rescinded then, but he's like walking around with the coveralls and the whole. He looks just like Michael Myers, except for not.
I was
being
like,
huge.
why would that collection of items be your Halloween costume? Sir?
It doesn't make a whole lot.
Like,
of
who are you
sense.
trying to be?
Right, like I see the scary mask. Normally that's like a black cloak with it or something like that. But he like runs into the street and does like a Bigfoot turn and look to his left as this police car comes screeching at him. Plows in. The dummy work is fabulous. I mean,
Oh, it
just
is
so very
beautiful.
good. Smashes the piss out of this dummy into the side of a panel truck, and then immediately it's a fireball. And this dummy is just like it's as if this person in the movie, like in the fiction of the movie, is made of kerosene. It's just
Yeah,
like
his whole
whoosh.
costume. No, he was drinking 151.
Yeah.
and it got all over his costume.
That makes more sense than anything else.
That's 100% what happened here.
Like, I know we didn't have fireproof clothing. Like, it was it was the era that it was made in, but it was like this person goes up as if they were lit on fire on purpose.
Also, we didn't mention it before, but as they're like, oh, let me take your blood, and they within like 6 seconds withdraw a vial of her blood, and I was like, that feels like you need more time for the blood to get there. But then they're like, oh, let me put you out. And she repeatedly says, please don't put me under. Please don't knock me out. And they're just like, okay, woman, let's knock you out.
And also, it's like she needs stitches, but it's like a wound in her shoulder. That feels like local anesthetic.
Yeah, you could very easily just like...
I mean, you're a guy who's had a lot more stitches. So, like, did they put you out for any of those, even when you were little?
I don't remember much, just
Okay.
because I thought my last set of stitches...
Because there were so many sets of stitches.
That's the thing. Like, if you don't know, listener, I've had 5 sets... Wait,
I was
4
going to
sets
guess
of
5.
stitches.
Okay, all right.
4 sets of stitches and an unfortunate nail incident that should have probably been a set of stitches.
And mind you, this is not like, lest you be out there like, oh my God, what does this mean? It means Andrew was a very clumsy child. Like
I was.
You tried to stand on an exercise ball and fell. You fell out of mom and dad's bed one time and busted your chin
right
open.
into the chin open. I slipped in the bathroom, and my cheek was mom and dad's bed.
Yeah, that was your cheek,
My
not your chin.
was the bathroom, and the back
Okay.
of my head was some bricks in the snow.
Yes, I forgot about that one. So yeah, he was not a graceful child. And also,
Now I am.
did you get stitches in your foot when you did the thing on the bicycle?
No, I almost broke my leg.
Because one
My
time,
ankle.
Andrew was riding on my bicycle with me, like sitting on the bar in front of the seat as we rolled across the street from our neighbor's house, and he stuck his foot in between the fork of the bike and the spokes of the wheel, and it just like did not do good things to his foot. I'm not going to get graphic because I know people are driving. I don't want to make them get ill, but it was gross, and we had to go get that taken care of at the doctor's office, hospital rather, as well.
Yeah, it was not a fun parade.
Was that an ambulance ride? That one?
I, again, can't
You don't
really remember.
Okay.
Things were a long time ago. I think my last set of stitches, it was in elementary school. I think.
That sounds about right.
I think it was my leg. Because my leg was my last set of stitches, because by that point, I was, like, telling the doctors what to do to get them off.
Like
I was
how to
like,
remove
look.
the stitches?
Yeah, I was like, look, hang on, we're going to take this off. I think we should just do one clean sweep. Come on, let's roll.
Anyway, Jimmy the EMT has the hots for Lori, and he's like kind of flirting with her, and not in a gross way compared to the other EMT who we will, I'm sure, talk about here momentarily. Jimmy is like very sweet and is like, I kind of know
like
who
a
you
puppy
are.
dog.
Yeah, and he's like, do you want something to drink? Like, can I get you a Coke or something? And it's like, they say a product name, which I thought was a hoot. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, I'll get you something to drink. I'll get you a Coke. And she's like, yeah, that sounds really nice. And it's just this like nice moment. And you know, it's like the edge of romantic, but it's not gross. It doesn't feel like predatory or anything like that. And it could very easily.
Yeah, because she's, drugged up in a hospital bed. But he's not, like, making advances on her. He's just, like, sitting there talking and, like, hey, can I make you more comfortable while you're here?
You watched all your friends get murdered, so you probably are in need of a friend right now.
Yeah, and later, the, real bitch nurse is really mean about him being in there for no reason.
Wait, are you talking about the head nurse? Because I really
Yeah.
like the head nurse.
I thought she was kind of, I guess she was written, I thought she was just written in a way to be, cold and whatever.
It's interesting, because I feel like she's, competent at her job, and everybody else around her is a bunch of doofuses, and this poor woman, I feel, is, the only one who's there and competent. She's got, a drunk doctor. Her second nurse shows up 15 minutes late and is trying to have sex with an EMT in the back room. It's she's I'm running this whole hospital by myself!
I mean, yes, that. I won't negate that as she's a woman of color, and that's very impressive that she's running this hospital.
It's also impressive that she's in the movie Halloween, because there are very few people of color in this entire franchise.
Correct. But no, so she comes into the room, he's sitting there talking with her about, hey, I'm surprised, they didn't handle Michael better. And she's like, what do you mean? And then Laurie learns that it was Michael Myers, because I was like, oh, that's right. She didn't know that in the first movie, that
Right.
Michael Myers was attacking her.
There's also a bit where the radio is on. I think this is right after Loomis warns the police that he's definitely not dead. He's definitely not dead. And they're like, yeah,
There's
all
a
right,
lot of
buddy.
radios going on in this movie. It's hard
Yes.
to relate.
Yeah, it is a challenge. But the radio is there's one survivor. Her name is Laurie Strode. And I'm like, that is wickedly irresponsible to name this person.
She's being held here.
Yeah, it's this just happened. Can you maybe wait a day before you start naming people?
Because I was like, they didn't release the victim names. No one's naming the victims, but you're
Right.
going to name the sole survivor?
Exactly. It feels very irresponsible. And we smash cut from this bit of irresponsibleness to the EMTs are in the break room with a nurse, and he's smoking a joint, holding it with hospital forceps. And I'm like, you can't smoke the joint in the hospital, okay? At least go around back to the dumpsters and hide it a little bit.
Yeah, come on. I wrote, Bud is that guy that graduated from high school but never left your hometown, thinks Olive Garden is real fancy, and is super shitty to women.
Is extremely shitty to women. He also starts giving the other guy shit, calling him college boy. And I had a weird thought here where college boy as an insult is a very dated thing, because we shifted from it was a thing some people did to a thing that all people did. And I wonder if we're going to circle back around to college boy being an insult again, because college degrees are basically worthless now, and you need to go get a master's or a doctorate or a MBA or whatever it is, to where those people are going to be razzing people with undergrad degrees, being like, oh, college boy. You couldn't instead of it being
I like
you're
that.
too smart for the room, it's not going to be you're too dumb for this room. It's going to switch but be the same.
You couldn't
insult.
afford. You had nothing
Yeah,
else
that's
to
more
mortgage
likely.
to get
Yeah,
to college a second time.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with the Olive Garden, by the way, listeners. Don't lose respect for this podcast because one of us thinks he's a fancy boy who's too good for the Olive Garden.
There's no shame. I love me some unlimited breadsticks. When they were running the unlimited pasta special, I was working in Disney World, and several nights me and my coworkers went to the Olive Garden and got a lot of pasta and a lot of breadsticks. But I was saying that he's the guy who's oh, it's a real fancy take a lady out to a nice place dinner, which I wouldn't call the Olive Garden.
I'm just saying, some of our listeners live in places where that's true. So let's just, hey, you work with what you got. I don't want to be East
love
Coast
the Olive
elites.
Garden.
That's all I'm just saying. I'm trying to be nice to people who live.
I feel like it's either coast is. I feel like either coast is the elite.
Okay, fine.
Tries to be the elite.
So this nurse, Karen, she's late too much, and the head nurse, who Andrew thinks is a bitch, but I think is super great, is hey, you gotta show up for work on time. It could literally be life and death. You work in the NICU. And then they show all these babies crying in their bassinets or whatever.
They also
those things
show
are called.
that Michael Myers is hanging out in the baby room.
Yeah, it's very creepy.
Terrifying.
Yes.
No, okay, so I'm not saying that she is constantly a bitch. That's not my blanket statement for this character.
It's a real
I was saying-
adversarial podcast all of a sudden.
Yeah, no. What I was saying was she, for some reason, was really aggressively against this guy talking to the patient when considering nobody else is in this hospital.
Yes.
Like, what's wrong with this EMT sitting down and having a conversation with a patient who doesn't want to fall asleep?
Right. Also, they keep sending the EMTs out to these houses. EMTs do not go pick up dead bodies. Like they keep having the EMTs pick up the dead bodies. That's not their job. The coroner does that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the nurse is in Laurie's room, the head nurse, and she's trying to call her parents again. She's like telling Laurie, "Hey, I tried to get a hold of them."
They died in Halloween 1, right?
Do they? I thought they went to a Halloween party.
But it's been a minute. I fell asleep watching Halloween with my boyfriend a couple weeks ago.
Get off this podcast.
I love that movie so
You're
much, but I was
fired.
very tired, and I've seen it a lot. So I was like, I'm comfy. I'm just gonna fall asleep. I'll finish it later. But I have a memory of like Loomis going to the Strode house and the Strodes being dead. Not shown, but like, oh, the Strodes are dead. Maybe I'm misremembering, or it's a different movie.
It could be. I don't remember that. I feel like Laurie, I guess she's not at her house in the first movie. She's babysitting at the neighbor's house.
She's babysitting at Tommy Doyle's house.
Yeah, maybe they are dead in it. In any case, the nurse is trying to get a hold of the Strodes, and the
Strode sounds like the last name of a frat boy. Like that's what he would be called. I'm the Strodes.
the Strodester.
Strodesman. Right? Like that's 100% that name.
Shotgun and beers. Yo, hit this beer bong. I'm Strodester. So she's trying to call, and the phone lines are cut.
Rage.
Strode Rage is so good. Strode Rage is so good. That's him like playing Grand Theft Auto, narrating it.
That's his like PlayStation name.
Yes, Strode Rage is definitely. So she picks up the phone. The phone lines have been cut, and immediately Laurie's like, there's a problem here. There's a huge problem here.
This is my biggest complaint about this movie, is that you took one of the fiercest, smartest final girls who fought with every ounce of her strength, and then you're like, you're going to be sleepy in a hospital bed for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it is kind of a bummer, but I also kind of like this sort of Uma Thurman and Kill Bill thing that they do. Obviously, this came first, where she's like desperately trying to fight back, but just completely unable to. Like, there's a point in which her legs just aren't working, and she's like trying to crawl away from Michael.
I would like that if that felt like what they were doing the whole time. Like, it feels like she just lays there catatonic for like 45 minutes, and then the back 45 is like the Uma. Like, if she had been Uma Thurman the whole time, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think you're wrong. I just, I don't know. I kind of dig it. Like, I'm with you. Like, it is a bummer, but she does later get to do
some cool stuff.
Yeah. Also, I looked it up. Her parents do not die in the first movie.
I might be thinking of a remake or something.
Yeah, that could be that, or it could also be that they get the headstone from the sister and they put it in the thing. That's maybe what you were thinking of.
No, that's because that's Judith Meyer's headstone.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't know. Apparently, there's like an expanded universe comic book or something that involves more with the parents, but in the movies,
extended universe,
there's like a comic book. I'm on the Halloween movie Wikia right now.
Oh, it's always a dangerous place to be.
Well, I find that there's like a high level of fact checking among the hardcore nerd crowd, so I like
there
it for
is,
research
but there's
purposes.
also a lot of facts.
Yes. Apparently, when Laurie's graduation came, there was a lot of strain because she just wanted to leave them because she was mad that they hid her actual birth lineage from her.
I mean, that feels like if you were adopted and your real family was murdered by your brother, that feels like a thing you just would sweep under the rug. You don't need to do that.
No,
That
you're not
doesn't
wrong.
Better your life.
You're not wrong. All right. So, phones are out. This hospital is an absolute chaotic nightmare where they're like, there's 3 people on staff. There's a security guard, 2 nurses, and nobody else. So the security guard goes to like check on some stuff, and there's a great like stupid jump scare where he opens a dumpster and a cat jumps out of it.
Yeah, he gets tackled by a cat, and it feels like this man shouldn't be a security guard.
Well, this dude is like a bumbling doofus. He's like overweight and can barely hold his flashlight steady. He just seems like a huge mess.
At least he doesn't have the sound effects like in Halloween 5.
That's true. That is true.
Like, good lord.
We'll see in 2 weeks for more about that.
So apparently 80s walkie-talkies were super complicated because this nurse, this woman with a degree in nursing,
Yes.
can't figure out a walkie-talkie, which I guess contemporary walkie-talkies have like the channel button and then
Right.
a like talk button.
Right. It looks like a CB radio almost.
See, in my brain, a CB radio is the one that is, that's a ham radio.
Right. It's the trucker talk to each other deal.
Yeah. So this security guard is the dumbest because he tries to let the woman know, like, hey, someone broke into the storeroom. You got to go get, the police involved. And he hears a noise and goes to investigate. And there is several closets where the padlock has been opened but is still secured on the thing.
Right.
And his first instinct is that there's someone hiding behind it. Which, how did they do that?
I was thinking he thought maybe there's like dead bodies in there.
Oh, okay. That makes way more sense because I was like, Brosif, how is there a person alive behind that? Like, how is that?
Right.
How do they sneak in there to hide?
It doesn't make any sense if that is truly what it is. I assumed it was the other, that he was like looking for dead bodies. But also this scene is amazing because he like switches on a lamp in the first room and then he's like radioing and talking to the nurse, and he's got his back to this long hallway, and there's just these great shadows and like so many places for Michael to hide, and it keeps cutting back and forth from him in front of this to the woman in front of like a turn down a different hallway, and the door of the hospital leads to outside, and the whole time with both of them you're like, oh my god, when's Michael gonna come out? Oh my god, when's Michael gonna come out? Oh my god,
And
when's
which
Michael?
one is it going to be?
Right. And they ultimately wait until they have like a door open and the guy shuts the door after checking in a closet, and Michael's standing right there and just kills him with a hammer.
Yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. I was thinking, I had been talking to my buddy Nathan about the new movie coming out, and I don't know if you guys out there have watched the trailer, but the trailer's pretty intense. It's gorier than I think of when I think of the Halloween franchise. This movie's pretty gnarly.
It is. I actually had that thought because I was like, wait a minute. I remember the first one was pretty bloodless, but this one is way gorier.
Yeah,
and
and
apparently that was John Carpenter's doing.
that they made it gorier.
Yeah, because another thing we didn't really talk about is that, so the first Halloween came out in 1978, and this is 1981, and it is literally picking up like -5 minutes before.
Yeah.
The last 5 minutes of the first movie are the first 5 of this movie.
Right.
And I was like, that's a 3-year gap for that kind of a movie, which is such a bold choice.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And they pull it off for the most part.
They do. But Carpenter didn't think that in the 80s climate of slashers, where things were kind of bloody and gory with your Jasons and your things like that
makes sense.
you would need to be bloodier. So.
Yeah, that totally
I was going
makes
to say
sense.
Freddy, but I don't know if Freddy was 84, right?
Yeah, I think the first Elm Street is 84. But that totally makes sense. Like the decade got bigger, and like 80s was an excessive decade all over the place. So
Speaking of decades, Jamie Lee Curtis has played Laurie Strode in 5 decades.
yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Someone said that, I was like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, especially because there's only been 40 years of the movies. But so this is where we find out that Ben Tramer was most likely the burnt guy, because they had done like a quick autopsy, and then later these kids are like, our friend's missing. He's been missing for the last hour, and they're like, what was he dressed as? It was, I don't know, some creepy mask. And Loomis is
And
like,
Loomis and the detective like pull on their collar. And
yeah, they do a Rodney
your
Dangerfield.
friend's probably fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm sure he's fine.
Michael's age changes in this movie. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't.
He's 23 in the last one, and Loomis says he's 21 in this one.
Oh, interesting. I did not catch that. I'm
he
impressed
was-
that you just knew that. Did you look that up, or did you just
No, I know that.
caught that? Oh, wow. All right, good for you, dork.
Yeah, and you said I had to leave because I fell asleep. I don't need to fall. I can fall asleep at Halloween 1. I know my shit.
Speaking of, not to sidetrack you too hard there, I apologize, but Mom was recently watching a documentary about the first movie.
Uh-huh.
And I had this really lovely moment where like she was texting me a bunch of information that I already knew because I'm a huge dork, but she was like so excited to learn these things about this movie that I don't know if she's ever seen. And
She hasn't. She and I have talked about it.
Okay, I bet she wouldn't watch it unless you like put the Clockwork Orange thing on her eyes, Like she has no interest in watching Halloween, but like if you
Because
ever...
I asked her because I was like, you were kind of the target demo when the first one came out. You were 21.
Yeah, right in the right
You
age
were
bracket.
right there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wasn't sure if like you ever saw it. And she was like, no, I think I've seen parts of that one, but I've never seen the whole thing.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me too much knowing what she's into. But I just thought it was like a perfect encapsulation of like why we're both movie dorks is like she's never going to watch that movie like ever. Like it'd be a real challenge to get her to watch it. But yet she's watching a documentary about the making of it and like gleefully taking delight in the little nuggets of information, like the fact that the original Michael Myers mask was actually a William Shatner mask that they mess with. And like she's texting me all these things, and I just was like smiling the whole time, like, oh, this is so like this was such a thing that I noticed, like, oh, the same kind of thing that delights me is also delighting you. And even more dorky is like it's not like it's your favorite movie and you're like, oh, I want to learn everything I can about
here's
this.
everything about Jaws.
Yeah. Where it's like I got to know everything about how they made this thing that I love so much. It's just like movies are cool, and I want to learn about them making a cool movie. So I thought that was like a really cool thing.
Oh, I love that. I was just going to say, yeah, in the first one, Michael is 8 years old when he kills his sister, and then he comes back 15 years later and he's 23.
Ah, interesting.
And in this one, they say Michael Myers is 21.
Yeah. So the big revelation we get in this movie is that Laurie and Michael are related, and that happens later, but...
Way later.
Yeah. But you were talking about his age, and so I'm bringing it up because of that. It's interesting that there's like a 2-year-old in the house that they just... Like, where is that 2-year-old in that opening scene? You know what I mean? Like, where is she hiding?
Maybe in a different room. Maybe like in a nursery room.
And also, like... One of these kids had to be an oopsie kid, right? Like the oldest daughter is 17, Michael is 8, and Laurie is 6. That's like or Laurie is 2. That's like a really weird age gap for siblings.
Do you think it was Laurie or the sister?
I feel like there might be 2 oops babies. Like it's like, oh no, we were really unprepared for this, so we gotta wait a while. All right, it's time to have a kid. They have Michael, and then like 6 years go by, and it's like they thought they couldn't get pregnant anymore, and suddenly it's like I'm pregnant. Like that, there's got to be some of that going on there. 'Cause there's a long gap between children.
It is, yeah.
We have the creepy dude hide under a sheet, and then when the nurse goes to like check the patient's pulse, he pops out and grabs her, and she immediately goes from disgusted to into it. Like, come on, movie.
Too much. Well, he also... I effing hate this guy, in case I wasn't clear.
Oh, he's a
my
scumbag.
Disparaging remarks earlier about the good people at Olive Garden.
I almost snarfed water there.
Sponsor us, Olive Garden.
Throw some pasta passes
OliveGarden.com/dissecting
these way.
the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Did you see they did a unlimited like pasta pass like for the year deal?
Yes, I did hear about that, and I was very tempted. Very tempted. But yeah, so the nurse is like, you are the grossest human on the planet. And he's like, God, everyone's weirded out because this psycho killer from this town's secret past that everyone thought was hidden away mysteriously came back. Like, what the hell? There's a lot to be weirded out by.
Yes.
Brohan.
Yes. We also glossed over, at one point the town like so revolts about Michael Myers that they're like trying to destroy the Myers
house.
People are like throwing rocks in the windows and stuff. It's pretty wild.
Like, what is that going to do, guys?
But anyway, creepy gross guy convinces this nurse to sleep with him, and he's like, come on, do your rounds and then meet me in the hot tub. And they go to like the spa therapy tub for the hospital for like people doing rehab on their legs or whatever. And he gets in it, and then of course we get some female nudity because it's a slasher movie, and she gets in the tub. Die. What's that?
And that means she's gonna die.
Yeah, for sure. Also, we do see boy butt, which is unusual for one of these movies. So I will say, you know, it's not equitable that it's his butt and her breasts, but you know, it's better than usual. But they're like trying to fool around this hot tub, and she's like, it's way too hot in here. And he's like, no, it's fine. And she's like, no, it's way too hot in here. And he's like, no. And she's like, hey, it's too hot in here. Get out. And he
listen, ass basket. Yes. Go do something about it.
So he gets out, and he's like doing that thing that movie characters do where they like tap on a dial. And it's like, I always wonder like what people think the characters think the end game is, where they're like, well, this dial says 105. Tap, tap, tap. Still 105 because I just tapped on it and didn't change any of the inputs.
Maybe. My thought process behind that is always like, maybe the needle is stuck and if you tap it, you'll jiggle it loose and it'll go where it's supposed to
Okay. It's like it's a broken needle situation. I see.
be. Yeah, that's where my thought goes. Oh, we missed the ham-fisted dream sequence where Laurie's mom tells her she's adopted.
Yeah, that is really
Her mom
weird.
turns around and she's like, "I'm not your mother." And I was like, wait a minute. I was under the impression Laurie came from a happy home.
Yeah, I was too. And there's also this like real abstract of like it looks like paint dripping onto nothingness that like later we learn is probably this nurse's blood, but like I don't understand what that's supposed to represent or why Laurie would know about it.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. So these two hospital employees on duty are naked in the hospital's hot tub.
Right.
And I think this might be the coolest shot of the movie.
One of them is high, by the way, to add insult to injury.
True.
It's like one of them
You're
is
right.
high and they're both naked in a hot tub.
And the high one also has to operate a motor vehicle. For the
Correct.
hospital.
His job is to drive a car for the hospital at high speed.
Yes, with sirens. And we get, like I said, what I think is the coolest shot of the movie, because he goes over there. I like that also that the dial just says there's a scalding point.
Yes.
And I was like, it probably wouldn't be like human soup. Like, it would probably be a little
Human
subtler than just
soup.
like scalding. Low simmer. So he goes to fix it, and then we cut back to the angle where we're close up on the nurse, and he is in the background behind a door where the dial was. And Michael grabs him, and because we're in the room with the nurse, we don't hear anything. We just see this guy struggling and getting strangled just behind the glass.
Right.
And it's such a great visual, and like the sound is great. It's perfect.
And then Michael walks into the room and puts his hands on her, and she's like kissing his hand and being like, "No, I have to go back to work. We'll fool around later." And she like gnaws a little bit on his hand, and I was
His
like,
hand has to be disgusting, right?
"Oh my god, yes! There's like 17 people's blood on it. It's not like Michael's like, I just killed that guy. Hang on, let me just scrub down here real quick and scrub with a lava bar."
I want to see those scenes
Oh, where he just like cleans up.
where he takes one of those like I'm going into the NICU or the compromised immune system wing of the hospital, so I get one of those special sponges with the scrubbies on it, and he like gets all up under the nails,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
into
yeah.
the grooves and the ridges, and he is like, "I'm clean."
He puts his little booties on,
Yeah.
the little hairnet thing on his hair.
He reaches under his mask and puts on the mouth guard, like the mouth cover, and then pulls the mask back down.
He drowns her in this like boiling hot tub, and it's really gross.
Her face gets all like peel. Oh, it's so cool. It's
Yeah,
such
her-
a great death.
Her skin is coming off and stuff. Yeah, it seems really gross.
It didn't need her boobs at the end. Like that felt a bit
No,
too
no, the dead like eyes open, mouth agog woman does not need to have her breasts out. Like, come on, movie.
Be a cool movie.
Let this actress have some dignity. Like, the nude scene is one thing. It's like, not only are you nude, we're going to put this horrible makeup on your face and you're going to be just this disgusting mass of burned human flesh.
Also, apparently that hot tub was freezing cold.
Well, that sounds about right.
So Loomis and the cops go to the elementary school where apparently they reported a break-in. And Michael apparently went over there just to stab a serrated knife that we've never seen before into one child's drawing
Yeah.
and write Samhain on the board, which everyone mispronounces.
Yes. I, for like years, said Sam Hain because that's how it's spelled and that's how they say it in this movie. And I said it once out loud and a bunch of people were like, "Hey, idiot, that's not how it's said." And I was like, well, the movies have lied to me. So
It always annoys me, especially on things like Supernatural, when I'm like, your job is to know the occult and you're going to call it Sam Hain?
yeah, it is,
Excuse me?
it is
you
really
need a haircut?
stupid. Yeah. Yeah. Jimmy the haircut.
I said, you need a haircut.
You need a haircut. you want I was like, who the hell is Jimmy the haircut? I jumped
Sounds
off
like
Supernatural.
The shittiest mobster.
I know. It's like yeah, he's a guy who's gimmick is
Hey,
he
I'm
gets
Jimmy the haircut.
he gets his haircut every 3 days. It's the perfect shape always. Jimmy the haircut.
I was thinking he had like electric clippers that he'll kill you with.
Oh, okay. Or just like scissors. He's a barber. That's his deal. He like
Yeah.
He scalps people. I'm picturing him in that, in Goodfellas when they do that, like they introduce everybody at the bar.
Do you think I know?
You've never seen Goodfellas?
No.
That's astounding to me. It's an amazing movie. Well, there's this really famous scene in Goodfellas where they like introduce all these mobsters, and it's just like a slew of those kind of nicknames. So they're like, there's Jimmy 2 times because he says everything 2 times, and this guy's fixing his tie. He's like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? Or whatever. And it's like his whole deal is just he says everything 2 times, but it's just like a slew of those introductions. So I'm imagining like, hey, there's
Jimmy the haircut.
and he holds up the scissors like Edward Scissorhands, like need a little off the top.
He's doing like lobster claws.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Zoidberg.
Exactly. Anyway, the governor apparently intervenes to get Loomis to come back to where he works, which is like a really odd thing to interject into this movie, that like the governor has come down and said something.
Like, you, Sam Loomis, are a loose cannon psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And you need to get back to the facility.
You allegedly shot one of your patients 6 times tonight, and he's still got away from you. So either you're a very bad shot. Why do you have a gun, by the way? Or
We'll table that one.
yeah, or you're just a psycho, in which case we definitely need to get you under control.
But also, in the logic of this movie, he left this nurse 12 hours ago. Mm-hmm. And she shows up and she's like, hey, and I was like, I get it that the first movie was 3 years ago, so people might not remember. But Sam Loomis should, like, he left her 12 hours ago. If I walked into a room and was like, I need to talk to you, and the guy was like, oh, I barely recognized you, I'd be like, well, fuck you too, dude. Dude, I'm out. Never mind.
Maybe he doesn't recognize her because he's been through the ringer over the last 12 hours.
I guess.
So they like bring him back with a cop, and meanwhile Laurie is like totally comatose in the bed, and they go to get the doctor because they think something's wrong with her. And there's this awesome scene where the nurse goes into the doctor's office, and this fish tank, she thinks he's staring at his fish tank, and it keeps cutting from like her to the POV from the fish tank at her, and there's this really cool like shimmery fish tank light in the room that makes it look very ominous and creepy. And she finally reaches and touches his chair, and it spins around, and he's got a hypodermic needle jammed in his head. So she screams, at which point
His
Michael...
eyeball.
Yeah. But this one is even grosser because she screams, and then Michael grabs her, and he injects her like through the temple, and it's so disgusting.
Air embolisms in my veins is one of my biggest irrational fears. Like, the idea terrifies me.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's horrible.
Like every time I need to, because I get blood drawn like every 3 months, and every time I'm in the hospital, everything, I'm always like, is that a bubble? Is that an air bubble? Is that gonna?
Yeah.
I don't say anything to the nurses because I don't want to be like, I'm like, you obviously know more than I do. You have much more schooling than I do. But
Yes.
my brain is going, is that an air bubble?
Looks like an air bubble at the top of that syringe. Is that
Yeah.
is that an air bubble? Can you double check that? Hey!
Hey. Well, apparently, did Mom and Dad ever tell you the story of they Mom and Dad were out to dinner and Dad had some kind of reaction to something, so they went to their, I don't know if it's family or friend or whatever. In an Italian family, those lines get blurred very easily.
Are you saying like Dad is a youth?
Dad in his 20s,
Okay.
30s.
Okay. So it was
with Mom.
probably that family friend guy. Like he is an actual doctor, but he is a family friend.
But he also apparently was a bit of a lush.
Yeah.
And when they went there, he and his wife had been drinking, and they administered a shot to Dad. And they get in the car, and Dad, like, dead ass turns to Mom and was like, so if there was any air in that, how fast would it kill me? How much air and how fast to kill me?
It's such a perfect image of our father that like there would be a large air pocket in a man he knew personally who was also drunk, and he wouldn't be like, is that supposed to be there? Like I know I'm the patient and I'm like having anaphylactic shock or whatever, and you're a doctor, but like that's a lot of air in that, right? That seems like a lot.
Right. Can we squeeze a little bit? Can we do that squirt
Yeah,
thing
just
that
a
they
little.
always do in the
Yeah, a little. I know it wastes medicine, but it does give me peace of mind. Meanwhile, Michael comes into Laurie's room and he just does a couple quick stabs and it's nothing. It's the pillows. So Laurie, who was comatose, is now like snapped out of it. And it's like, all right, it's time for Warrior Queen Laurie, except it's not.
And then she collapses and falls asleep again.
She goes like 10 feet. But I mean, you're totally right. Like they should not be injecting the heroine of the movie with whatever drug it is.
Like, she needed to be... I needed my Warrior Queen back.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So at this point, it's just like a montage of scenes where we discover all the people who are in the hospital are dead. Jimmy, the EMT, goes into this room, and the nurse is like laying on this gurney with her arms outstretched.
It makes zero sense when you look at it too closely.
It's like he strapped her down and then like somehow knocked her unconscious and put a vein, like a IV into her arm that was just going to like drain all the blood out of her body.
Yeah, it looks like she's like when you if you're getting a lot of blood drawn, they kind of leave that thing in there so that they can like pull out they click the vials in and they pull them out. And it's like it's not like it's bloody and gross like the needle site. Like the needle site looks like it's done by a phlebotomist.
Yes.
And somehow it's just been snipped to drain. Like it went from suck to like from blow to suck.
Right. And then Jimmy slips in the blood and hits his head, and then he like blacks out, and we cut away from him, and
it's a little confusing when he falls because naturally blood, it's liquid, it splashes a little, and it like goes on his face, almost in a way that suggests that he dies. And I was like, did that kill him?
Right. I was very confused here too, and also there's only like 6 pints of blood in a human, right?
I don't know. Wait.
I feel like that number is not insane, and this nurse seems to have...
6 pints?
I'm Googling 6 pints of blood and to see what the internet tells me. A 5-foot person weighing 120-ish pounds has 6 to 8 pints of blood. So let's say she has 8 pints of blood. There's like so much blood on the floor in this room. Like so much. There's like an Evil Dead amount of blood on the floor in this room.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like a half inch of standing blood.
I might ask you to cut this just to.
Are you gonna ask me what a pint is?
No, not with that. But like when you get blood drawn, your body creates more blood, right?
Yeah.
So maybe her body just kept creating blood?
No, and it's not that fast. It takes a while for your body to make more blood.
Okay.
Like when you give blood, when you donate blood, you have to drink a lot of fluid so that your body can replenish the blood that is lost.
Okay.
That was not as dumb a question as I was expecting you to ask based on your preamble of like, you're going to have to cut this out.
I was like, maybe cut this if this is too dumb.
No.
Because like your body recreates, like replenishes your blood supply.
Right, it does. But this woman seems to have lost 40 to 100 gallons of blood. There's like a half inch of standing blood on this floor.
It looks like an old Nickelodeon game show.
Yes, it does!
Someone, and it just collects all over the floor.
Mark Summers is in there in the corner being like, dig, get that flag out of that nose, come on,
Summer Sanders is like, Michael's secret skill is he kills babysitters in Haddonfield, Illinois.
And then Danny Tamborelli gets shit all over him. Lori Beth Dettenberg is screaming. By the way, I was recently reading an article that was talking about like ranking the Nickelodeon game shows, and they talked about I don't remember the name of that show we were just joking about, the Summer Sanders one.
Figure it out.
Yeah. The things that those kids were like air quotes famous for were sometimes the most ridiculous.
Wait, do you mean their skill? Do you mean the kids that had the skills they were guessing?
Yes.
Yeah, it was like she races lizards for cancer charity.
Yes.
Like, no, wait a minute.
I have some questions, and it's not trying to figure it out. It's more like you're bullshitting me, right?
Right?
But like the example that they used in this article was like, she can jump rope for 2 straight hours or something stupid like that.
That can't be that crazy of a skill, right?
It seems like a very pedestrian skill that this person has.
But I'm just picturing somebody like, okay, we're going over the Clue recap board. He is a murderer. It is in the rural Midwest, and Danny Tamborelli does eat boogers. And then the audience laughs. Because it was always, I feel like the last Clue recap was always like a dig at Danny Tamborelli.
Yeah, that poor guy. Like, all he wanted to do was be Pete. And then suddenly he's just there getting ragged on. Side note, the Pete's have a podcast. I haven't listened to it, but it exists.
Oh, do they? Does
Yeah.
Lori Beth have a podcast? 'Cause
I have
feel
no
like,
idea.
I feel like I want to see what she's up to these days. I'd be very curious.
The last I saw of her was being the butt of a really shitty joke in the movie Accepted or Waiting, some Justin Long movie. Dodgeball, one of those, where he was like,
I know
it was
he lifted
Dodgeball.
her.
It was Dodgeball. Because he tries out to be a cheerleader and she like lands on him and it hurts him. But it's just like a fat joke at her expense. That's the last I saw of her.
She's too funny for that.
Yeah. Anyway, Lori's like limping down the hallway and this nurse is like, Lori, wait. And Lori looks back at her and then just keeps limping down the hallway. And then she's like, Lori, wait. And she turns back again. And this time Michael's standing behind her with a scalpel. And it's like, it needs to have like a bun-dun, but it doesn't. And then Michael stabs this woman so hard with a scalpel with one hand that he lifts her up off the floor like her feet are kicking.
I'm like, where did you stab, Michael?
Apparently right in the leverage point for the entire human body.
Was it? I'm imagining he got like just under the rib cage and like hooked the scalpel so he has some,
That's
like,
exactly what
a
he
gripping
did.
point.
Yeah, it's a grip point between the ribs and the spine that he just is like boop 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 boop. But Lori gets in the elevator.
He lifts her like it's a video game, and he just opened the chest and he opened the treasure chest and pulled out the object.
He lifts her like she's the friggin' sword and stone. Like, I now have Excalibur and I will conquer the Stronester. So Laurie gets to this elevator, and it's an elevator straight out of The Shining. It's this like really glossy red, which just seems like a weird color for a hospital. And then Michael's
They were
like,
very dangerous.
yeah. So Michael's like,
He sticks the scalpel.
yes, and it shuts, and it shuts so hard that he has to retract his hand, which I've never seen with an elevator.
Except in Final Destination and this.
Yes, because like I recently had a situation where somebody was trying to get onto this elevator, and I knew it was a notoriously slow elevator, and so it was starting to shut, and I just like stuck my whole arm out to hit the door so it would open back up. And people on the elevator acted like I was a guy with a death wish, and I was like, have none of you touched an elevator door? They have safety mechanisms in them.
I was gonna say, I've done that so many times. You just keep your foot in the door so it hits your foot and
Right.
opens.
I
again.
had absolutely no fear that something bad was going to happen. I just like stuck my arm out and hit the door and it opened. But people reacted like I was this like the subway hero or something.
You jumped down. You
Right.
almost touched the third rail.
Yeah, exactly. So Lori gets away, climbs out a window, and ends up hiding in a car.
That's like a
Meanwhile,
weird choice.
we get my favorite scene in the whole movie, which is Loomis and the smoking nurse in the backseat of this car while this cop is driving, and she is relaying she's just exposition dumping. It's like they're actually siblings. There's this secret file you never
Such
saw.
a dumb plot device.
Yes, it really is. And then Loomis comes to realization, like, oh my god, he's trying to kill his other sister.
I'm so glad the first trailer for the new Halloween was like, no, they're not siblings. Like, we're not using that plot line. Everyone shut up.
I honestly have no problem with it because at this point it's been canon for so long. So I thought it was kind of weird to disregard because this is a pretty good sequel. Like, other than the siblings thing, it doesn't do. I guess he does get blown up at the end, which is why they had to disregard it. But the rest of it is fine anyway.
It just felt like a weird thing that ultimately led to the whole Celtic Curse of Thorn nonsense.
Right.
So, like, if they're not siblings, like, there's no chance of going down that stupid road.
Right. But this is the part that I love about this. So she's relaying all this information, and they're having this big, like, desperate conversation in the back of this car. Meanwhile, this cop and the actor who's playing this cop is doing all of his acting by, like, slightly narrowing and widening his eyes. Because he's, like, trying to be, like, Johnny Cool. But all I could think about was, like, this guy having this internal monologue of, like, boy, I hope Judy made pot roast again for dinner tonight. Could really go for some potatoes. Maybe get that gravy off the roast beef onto the potatoes. Ooh, that's a good potato. Man, maybe we'll get peas too instead of that mushy broccoli. Boy, I really don't like broccoli. And then at this point, Loomis is like, turn the car around. And he's like, can't do that, boss. And he goes back. He's like, potatoes with roast beef. And then there's like a gun cocking noise. And Loomis puts it to his throat. And he's like, well, how about a warning shot? He shoots the other window out, and this cop like whips the car around like he's in Bullet or something, and like hit tires squealing and like powers out of it.
Fishtails.
But this guy is so clearly not paying attention to what they're talking about. He's just like in his own little world, and I just
He is.
I spent so much time envisioning like what it was, and then I also thought like, oh my gosh, what if he was the Uber driver?
I'm so excited. I love Crazy Loomis, and I'm really excited for them to make Lori the new Crazy Loomis.
Me too.
I want her firing at cops, being like,
Oh, yeah.
here's a warning shot!" Boom, boom, like with her pump shotgun.
Yeah,
she's
well-
just like buckshots.
Also, the sheriff in the new movie is Coach Yost from Remember the Titans, and she's giving him shit in the
What?
trailer. Yeah.
Oh, I did not notice that was him.
Yeah. So she's like, I prayed every day he would get out. Why would you do a thing like that? So I could kill him.
Kill him.
It's like,
Crazy
oh,
old
shit.
Lori.
Yeah,
Crazy old Lori, eh?
exactly. So she's hiding in this car. Jimmy the EMT comes out, and he's like barely hanging on, and he's like
It's
trying to
so
start this
bizarre.
car and can't do it. And I thought he had been like, I was like, does he just have a bad concussion? Like, I don't understand what his injuries are, because Michael didn't get to him that we saw, but he's like covered in blood from presumably the other nurse, but maybe his own too.
Getting slimed.
He did indeed get slimed. Mark Summers was like, "You didn't find the flag in the nose. Oh, I'm sorry." Boom, 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 boom.
We'll take a physical challenge. Oh my god, I want to see Family Double Dare, but like with slashers
Michael, Jason, Freddy, and Chucky.
versus like,
No. Those four in some 2-on-2 scenario.
oh, okay, I'm down for that. Or I was gonna say, or we could do them versus like Nev Campbell, Laurie Strode, Heather
Yeah.
Langenkamp, and Andy Barclay.
That would be all
like
right, too.
6-year-old Andy Barclay.
Yes. Well, that would make it fair when he went head to head with Chucky.
Yeah.
Or wait. The Newlywed Game. The final girl or boy
and their killer.
and their killer. And they have to answer questions about each other. Can
How
somebody
did
make
Freddy
this webcomic?
never do that to someone?
What's that?
How did Freddy never do that to someone?
I don't know. It feels like a Freddy move.
Right? Like 100%.
So Jimmy can't drive this car, and then he passes out and like slumps onto the horn, which is just blaring and blaring and blaring.
And yeah. And so she pulls him off and then magically loses her voice for a few seconds as Loomis walks by.
Really frustrating.
It doesn't make any sense.
Or just like start slapping the pavement. Like it would be loud. There's no other noise out here. Just like
slam
slap
the car door.
Yeah, clap your hands. Do something.
Clap your hands if you believe.
Yeah, like do you believe in not dying by the hand of Michael Myers? Then you should clap. For God's sake, clap.
Clap.
Tinkerbell's dying, Laurie. Tinkerbell's dying.
So she gets up and they let her in. Michael Myers literally walks through a plate glass
It's
door.
so good.
There's definitely doesn't have the speed for that.
He's like a fat little me plowing through a screen door at a family picnic, just like kaboom off the hinges and out the door. Like he just powers through a plate glass window with no problems.
He gets shot
3 times in my life I did that, by the way, just for those keeping
Walked
score at
through
home.
a screen door.
3 screen doors I ruined. Just like ran right through it. Didn't see it. Somebody yelled that dinner was ready, and I came in hauling ass. And there weren't a lot of times that little old fat kid me was hauling ass, but boy, when the hamburgers were ready, I hit the afterburners, baby.
I didn't know that happened 3 times.
Yes. Knocked it right out.
I don't know that I ever did that.
No, it's not. You weren't a fat enough kid. You weren't excited enough by the prospect of food.
If it was buttered noodles, it probably would have been. So Michael gets shot roughly 100,000 more times.
Loomis almost empties a clip into him, and then
No, he does empty the clip, drops it, pulls out another one from his back, puts that in, and empties the second clip.
pulls a gun out of
should do it.
pulls a gun out of his ankle holster and empties that one too. He just like starts pulling guns out of different places on his body.
take this shotgun.
And, yeah, and then
He takes the one taped to his back
the
with medical
Die Hard
tape.
gun. And then the sheriff deputy guy who previously was mostly concerned by pot roast is like coming over to Michael Myers, and he's like, stay away from him. He's still breathing. And then he turns to talk to Laurie for like a second. And this guy starts laying down, like getting down on the floor next to him. And he's like, get away. And he's like, no, he stopped breathing. At which point Michael like sits up, grabs him, yanks him over, and just like slits his throat while looking Loomis dead in the eye.
You dumb cop.
Right.
Like, you, come on, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. So they run and hide in the surgery room. He gives Laurie a gun, and then he tries to... Michael punches through the glass window and then just punches a hole into the door, which he walks right through.
It is, like we always say, a feudal paper Japanese door.
Exactly. The plate glass window broke in the same fashion, by the way. Feudal Japanese door.
So also, the chain-smoking nurse that is hanging out with Loomis keeps calling the hospital the clinic.
Yes.
And I was like, let's specify a name.
It
or
literally
a location.
says Haddonfield Memorial Hospital on the wall behind you. Just turn 80 degrees to your right and read it off the wall. The address is there as well.
Yeah, because I'm like, they don't know where they're gonna go.
No. So he stabs Loomis in the gut. He goes down. Laurie like yells Michael, and he does like the dog cocking his head thing, and she just puts one in his forehead.
She's
like,
cold, and I love it.
Yeah. She shoots him twice.
This is the Laurie I wanted the whole movie.
Yes. But instead of him being dead, it just makes him blind. So he's just like blindly swinging this scalpel around.
He has blood tears, and it's awesome.
So Loomis starts opening up a can of ether, which is like to put patients out. Laurie sees what he's doing and is like, all right, I'll turn all the oxygen on. So then he is like, run! So she goes through the feudal Japanese door that he busted open. And Loomis has a lighter, which, by the way, Chekhov's lighter, because the cop bums it from him earlier so he can light a smoke, pulls out this Bic lighter and is like, time to go, Michael! Flick. And then they blow up this room, and it is cooler than any explosion in any Marvel movie. I'm not even ashamed to say that. They actually blew some shit up here.
They did. The only thing that would make it like funnier to me, cooler, would be like if Laurie was down the hallway and did the like whoa, and when like the whole body kind of like curves as they get thrown to the ground moment.
Flash forward to the next day, and they're like putting Laurie in another ambulance. She's in a wheelchair.
One reporter is narrating it.
Yes, I was so
Laurie
hoping someone was going to punch
wheelchair.
this reporter.
We all have eyes, bro.
Right, like no one needs your play-by-play.
Again, Laurie's like, can I ride up front, please? Don't make me alone.
And they're like, no, we can't do that, but you'll be fine back there. And then they cut to the ambulance driving away, and they cut to Laurie in the back, and it's playing Mr. Sandman, which is the song that starts this movie.
I don't get why these movies love that song.
I don't either. But it's like a dark ambulance, and I'm so tuned into like modern storytelling that I'm like, oh shit, Michael's in the ambulance. Because like it was so set up for him to like pop up out of the darkness. He doesn't, though. They end the movie. And at the time that they made this, they thought they were like, we're done making these movies. Like the next Halloween is going to be about these weird Halloween masks, and then the one after that's going to be a ghost story. Like we're done with Michael Myers. He's donezo. They were wrong.
Well, the problem is that like Halloween 2 did really well at the box office. So like, why would you change that formula?
Right. If you're going to make the switch, you had to make it here.
Yeah, and then your third one could be Michael Myers again.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I feel like once you go away from him, you have to stay away from him.
Well, no, I think Deborah Hill and John Carpenter's idea was sort of a Ed and Lorraine Warren Conjuring movie verse.
Right.
Where, like, they made one movie, and they could continue that, but then they would branch off and create other movies based on things from that movie. Because there's, like, everything is, like, a Conjuring movie now. Yeah. Or, like, the Conjuring universe.
Right. They're all Annabelle's related to that. All that stuff is related to...
Yeah, Annabelle, the Nun. Yeah.
The Warren-verse is basically what it is.
Yeah, the WCU.
Yeah. So I wholeheartedly recommend this movie. I think it's really good.
Watch this movie.
Yeah. I don't think it's as good as Halloween, but it's I think one of the best sequels to... I mean, one of the best sequels, period. I'm not even going to put any caveats on it. It's one of the best sequels, period. I agree with you. It's like probably a solid B-, maybe a B, but it's very good. of the three slasher franchises we talk about, it's probably the best sequel of all of them in terms of like good movie and not just like entertaining. You know what I mean?
Because I think Halloween 1, 2, and 4 are the only ones worth like rewatching consistently.
I would not recommend people watch Halloween 4, but that's okay. You can recommend it.
I find I like Danielle Harris's performance in that movie. I think it's shitty that they were like, Laurie Strode got in a car accident. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, you can treat your girl better than that.
Right.
But I think one and 2 are the best, and then 4 is like also good to me.
Like, I like several of the Friday the 13th sequels. I think they're fun and ridiculous, but I think this is actually a pretty good movie, not just like fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny, you were like, oh, I recommend 4. I'm genuinely wondering if I recommended 4 at the end of that episode. It was quite some time ago, so it'd be funny to find out that I recommended it then, and now I just was like, no!
It was a while ago.
But this one is better, for sure, than that. We will continue our month of Michael Myers in 2 weeks, but give us 1 second here to wrap things up. Thank you, as always, for listening to the show. We really appreciate all of you out there taking the time to hang out with us on your commute or wherever it is that you listen to the show. Get in touch with us on Facebook at facebook.com/dissectingthe80s, on Twitter at dissectthe80s. You can email us dissectingthe80s@gmail.com. You can also give us a phone call at 856-DISSECT. We always love hearing from our listeners. More importantly than that, though, if you have a minute, we would really love it if you could take a second and review us on iTunes. It makes a huge difference in the show getting out there and other people finding it. And if you do like the show and would like to support us, the other 2 things you could do is 1, tell 2 friends, because podcasts are the ultimate pyramid scheme and that they don't cost anybody any money and you still get to give people cool stuff. And most importantly, we now have a Patreon, so you can support us that way if you'd like to. For $2 a month, we get a newsletter where we tell you the next 3 episodes, give you some information about what else we're watching and things that we're enjoying in the world of entertainment and things like that. But we also have other tiers where you can even commission your own episode if you stick around long enough, which is a pretty awesome thing. We've got some listeners who are going to be coming up on that sooner rather than later, so you could join them, commission your own episode. So patreon.com/dissectingthe80s. If you sign up now, you get a bonus at the $5 level or higher. You get a bonus episode right off the bat because we put one up for September. It was our live show from the Philly Podcast Festival this year. We will be back in before 2 weeks, actually. We have a special episode coming up on...
A very special episode.
It is a very special episode. On October 19th, the day the new Halloween film comes out, we will be discussing the whole franchise with Fangoria editor Phil Nobile Jr., which is pretty cool. It was a fun conversation.
He's a cool guy.
He was a very cool guy. He's a Philly guy, worked in horror media and writing all over the place for a lot of different publications, but is now the editor of the new Fangoria and was nice enough to take some time to chat with us. We even got like a famous guest person to play Mary F. Kill of the horror franchises, so that was really cool. Keep an eye out for that. And then we'll be back with our normal episode on October 22nd with, I believe, the last Michael Myers movie we can do for the podcast, Halloween 5.
Yeah, because 6 is in the 90s.
Yeah, so the last time we get to hang out with Michael Myers is this month. Thank you once again for listening. I have been Trip Lano.
I will always be Andrew Lano.
And until October 22nd...
Don't you forget about me.
Michael!
Dissecting the 80s is a Chum Some of This production.